Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Welcome to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Essentially, tonight's going to kind of be a free-for-all. There was so much that happened, and I'm hoping to fucking God that this is going to be the last bit we have to have with this cocksucker. I'm afraid, though, because I don't really think that it's going to be, if we're being honest. But I'm hoping and praying to the spaghetti monster that there is no more Trump after the 21st. For fuck's sake, I'm so sick of him and so sick of all the shit and having to cover this every week. But the problem I had is this week, we sat there on Wednesday and watched what was happening. And I'm dead serious. There's a Twitch stream that my buddy sent me, and it shows live feeds from underground people at the place. Some probably were Trumpers, some probably were not. But it's not specifically always a media personality. For example, a guy named Mike was videoing on his Instagram. So they broadcast it. And it's like these live feeds that you can actually see everything unfiltered happening all at one time. And the ability for us to understand and to see what was going on is just like infuriating to me, because here we are living in the 21st century. Right, and they claim this all started as a peaceful protest, but this escalated well before dark. There was no Antifa, there's no Black Lives Matter people there to provoke them, and they're breaking into the Capitol. Here we are now, almost a week later, with 5 fucking people dead. We had the government shut down. People had to be evacuated. Then on top of that, we watched the DC police not do anything until 6 o'clock. Now, I can watch videos where they blasted BLM protesters right away. Insane. And here we have people with guns, with flags, breaking into the Capitol building, of all buildings, breaking in. People with zip ties because they're going to kidnap people. Now, you tell me how that's not met with force. How the only people that really died from that were because they did something even crazier than just jump into the area in Congress where the Speaker and the House and all the Congress individuals sit. So now tell me how nobody else really got killed. And out of the 5, one of them was a police officer that those people killed. So tonight, the whole show is dedicated to having a conversation about the DC Save America riots, the ban hammers that are coming out between Twitter, Google, Apple, and now Amazon against Trump and Parler, even though those two don't have anything to do with each other. And we're going to have deep discussions around it, because last week I made a pretty bold statement, and I'll bring the guys in a minute for the rest of the show, but I made a pretty bold statement where I was somewhat in favor of removing Section 230, and I was in favor of replacing it with a little bit more government restriction. Well, we just had social media people, or gurus and mongrels, basically say, hey, you guys don't need to commit a change this act. We'll take care of this for you. So I thought that was worthy of having a conversation, because a lot of people are freaking out right now. But without further ado, let's bring the better halves of the show in. Mr. Hansel, the engineer, and Mr. Buddy the elf. How are you tonight, gentlemen?
I'm still trying to figure out how halves and all of that adds up to us, but I'm liking it. I'm here. I am confused as to what the hell is going on with your country, because the last time somebody invaded the White House, we the ones who did it, and then we set it on fire. We didn't smear poop all over the walls, so at least we got that going for us. But how are you guys doing?
I mean, I've talked about it before, and one of the philosophers that I like to follow is a wild and crazy dude named Slavoj Zizek, and he basically said that he hoped the Trump election that Trump would win over Hillary, so that America would basically have its nose rubbed in it, that we would realize what really was inside of our country, and it would be an awareness or an awakening to see really what is true. That all of the things that all the minority groups and everybody have been saying, that America isn't this pristine, wondrous. If you work hard enough, you'll be able to be president one day. If you have dark skin, you get treated differently. And there is an undercurrent of racism and xenophobia and elitism that we see, and it's rampant. And we saw it on display this week, and we saw it in a level of privilege that we saw that is frightening and disturbing, and frankly just dangerous for a lot of people. And I've been listening to stuff all week about who, what, where, when, and how. I have a lot of thoughts. We'll probably get into a bunch of them, but in the end, it's I'm as horrible as it is. If we could have just not had the loss of life, I really do think it's a good thing that this happened, and I'll explain why later. But it's like there's nothing more illuminating that I've ever seen to really show what kind of things are really inside this country, the things that we have been saying we need to work on.
Yeah, it's almost
Exactly.
like
And I think that's one of the big things. And buddy, you come from up north where it's a little bit different perspective. And so like I would ask I would ask the opinion of the Canadian. I guess are you the token the token American here? Like you're technically living in the Americanized Canadian world up there because of Calgary.
Canada.
I have kind of considered myself to be the token here, yes, but it's kind of interesting getting to, because of course we always see from the outside in, so we see what makes it through the coffee filter of international news or whatever is able to escape. And I mean, it on the one hand, I mean, just being over the border, we for the most part see pretty much everything. I mean, it's kind of like we're kind of like those really nosy neighbors. We're not that exciting ourselves, so we kind of invest ourselves in the lives of everybody around us, and that's you guys. So it is interesting. I've got American friends who live in California that are even they're saying Canada looks better and better every day, and I'm like, I mean, we got good weed, so there's that. if y'all would miss that, then we've got that here. That's no problem. Yeah. Looking over, there is a whole lot of what the hell is wrong with your country going on. I mean, we see all the media, and there's every time there's an American flag, there's some Trump.
Trudeau was quick to just say nope. I don't know. That was pretty nice.
Done. Yeah, the condemnation of that bullshit. But we did have demonstrations here. Like there were demonstrations in Canada, and I should have written more of them down. I know one of them was an hour and a half north of Calgary in Red Deer. Canada Trump riots. We're gonna say not riots, riots. There we go. Yeah, they. Yeah, apparently I don't Google's properly all the time. Yeah, Trudeau basically pinned it on Trump and said, "Yeah, no, it's your fault. You're the one who incited these riots." And I mean, it's really hard to argue against that, because at every point he has said, if I don't win, it's because the election was rigged. Then we find out he called down to Georgia to basically say, just fudge the numbers. We won. Everybody knows we won. Just make it look like we won. Because he's a desperate man who is trying to desperately cling to the last shred of power and relevancy that he has at the time. And he has been a conspiracy theorist long before he was president. I mean, before he even threw his hat into the ring for the GOP primaries, he was saying we need to see Obama's birth certificate, and everything he said was about how bad Obama was. And he bought into all of those, propagated all of those. I can't stay too much further without 100% certainty about other conspiracy theories that he had put out on his Twitter, which he doesn't exactly have anymore.
Burn.
but he's basically
I love it.
in he has basically he is, as far as I'm concerned, the manifestation, the embodiment of everything that is wrong. I mean, he has never worked a day in his life. He comes from to say he comes from privilege is to really be generous, I think. He's never actually had to have responsibility. He's clearly never had to take responsibility, and you can see that in his actions. Not once does he say, "I made a mistake. I did this." It's always, "No, that's fake news. I never did that." He takes credit for everything. He tried to take credit for Pence calling the National Guard during the riots. Um, so he has himself set this up, and unfortunately, because it's become such a cult mentality, such a mob mentality, it's so difficult to even sit here and be like, well, why aren't you people being logical? Because they've bought into it so far that every psychological trick he's pulled to try to manipulate people has worked, because that's what he knows. And that's, I mean, wild speculation on my part,
If it
but that's part of the reason
works,
why part of my wild speculation is that's why part of the reason why you don't want a business person in politics is because they know how to manipulate things for a business success, not for political success.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing here, right? Is that we have all these other countries, and people are just like, what the fuck? Why would you do
Yep.
that? And
Yep.
yet here we are continuing down our pace, doing our thing, trying not to, piss off the Trumpers. But essentially that's what it is. And who cares to some aspect, right? I mean, like, what do I care if I piss off the Trumpers?
Yeah.
Like, what do I care? I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little more pushy than normal today, but to me, it's almost just like, hey, Trumpers, think about this. You all went and stormed this Capitol. You all stood on there, and I have a clip from somebody that's from Grand Rapids that went there that we're gonna play after we do, answering conservative questions tonight, because it ties all into this whole thing. And this guy's now, and I'll double check tonight, but he has privatized or been removed from Facebook. And he was in an article on Fox Online. And we got the feds going after people. We got all sorts of crazy shit right now going on.
Mhm.
And I think that the big thing here is how do we focus it all back home, right? And how do we get people to say, yeah, there's a huge difference, right, in Black Lives Matter protests and protests for stealing the vote, which is non-existent. Like, I mean, you guys are sitting here protesting something that's been disproven. You're believing bullshit. You might as well go fucking live in Iran or Iraq or someplace like that where they control the media. Or Russia. There you go. Go to Russia. They control the media. You could believe there. You could be a true conspiracy theorist there. Here, there's not a need. You lost 62 fucking court battles. Now, tell me, again, how in God's green earth you can sit here and stand by this stop the steal. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know.
In the end,
Well, it kind of
what we're
boils
looking
back
at.
to.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll let you go. Oh, I was
I
just
was
gonna use what he said to kind of back up what I had said. So no, it's okay. I'll let you go. I have cake.
Well, in the end, I mean,
You gonna
just
eat it too?
to be concise, yeah, he's eating. In the end, this is the most concise and not watered down version. Like, this is condensed Orange Man soup, right? This is the stuff that we were afraid of, and we've been afraid of a major event of some kind of emergency happening during Orange Man presidency. And we got one. We got one of the worst pandemics the globe has ever seen, and we're seeing it evolve in front of our eyes into new things. And 500,000 people almost have died over this thing. I mean, we're talking 9/11 every single day, like huge global issue, and one of the most inept people in history is in charge. And on top of that, they exacerbated all of the immediate issues that we have when it comes to race and what should be an economic war against the rich versus the people who are down, class warfare. They've managed to get us all to fight about things like religion and race and wearing masks and not wearing masks and the nitpick and the magician's trick of basically getting you to look and distract you from what the real issues are. Like this is the most condensed version of that world I've ever seen. I mean, all of these things that we were hoping weren't going to come true. The only thing that didn't happen was a full-on war, and we've got 9 days left or whatever the total is, man. Like that was the only other thing we were really, really worried about was like a major war. Well, I mean, Civil War is a war. I don't think it could really come to this because some of the reactions that I've seen from people who were pretty stoutly conservative they're just like, this isn't what I signed up for, and I'm happy to see that reaction from some people who I was hoping that I would see it. It's a little late, about 2.5 years too late, but I don't know. I mean. It's a weird place to be right now. I mean, I didn't think that 2020 could end on a weirder note, and doggone it, it managed to do it. And 2021 is already ramped up to be a pretty hot one, but we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think that the issue here too, and I want to get into answering conservative questions, really, but the issue here is we have all of these people wanting to do all of this crazy nonsense, right? They want to scale the wall. They want to claim they're peaceful. They want to claim Antifa. And it's just like, just at least admit what you did, right? Just admit it. Let's admit it. Let's accept it. And then let's move on from there and have a conversation, which is what we want to do tonight. And so if you're listening and you have a conservative, or you're a conservative and you're somebody that supports that, or you're one of the guys that I played in this video, bring it on. Have a conversation with me. Get a hold of me. We'll put you on the podcast. I will clear almost anybody, minus like a vaccination expert, off the show to have you on. And you can contact us at cellardoor@gmail.com, cellardoorskeptics@gmail.com. And you're welcome to send me an email. You could go to our website and you could fill out a contact, anything you want to do. But what I need is, how in God's green earth can you justify this? Because to me, it doesn't make any sense. And now, answering conservative questions. Thank you all for joining us tonight, right? And so the deal here is we're going to answer some conservative questions. Only one tonight, but it has to do with everything. So the question that came in is, why is Wednesday's protest being considered a riot compared to other Black Lives Matter protests? Seems pretty simple on its face, right? But is it really? All right, who wants to tackle it first? I can rant all night if you want.
Yeah, okay, I'll fall on the sword. Why are these getting considered? I mean, if we're going to be perfectly honest, and much as I don't like the whataboutism approach, the Black Lives Matter protests were called riots. They were called riots by a lot of different right-wing outlets, were they not? Were they not framed in such a way, saying that these thugs are breaking in and they're shattering businesses, they're causing all this vandalism, all these problems? That is basically what the right was saying. They were sitting there saying, well, these are riots, and using everything they could to basically completely avoid the conversation, because I think it's distraction was the term you guys were looking for, the magician's tool, where you just kind of like distract somebody, keep their attention over here while you do something here, because for magic to work, it takes advantage of the way we do things, of the way our brains work. It's when you know your brain is working properly. But anyways, so basically tried to frame it in such a way that it was maintained at a distance. The Black Lives Matter protests, which were protests, they were demonstrations. Basically, there was an underlying theme and an underlying message and an internal consistency to it. Essentially, people of color are unfairly treated in our society, and it's high time that changed. It's high time that my white skin stopped giving me access to privileges and social benefits that I don't really see overtly because I just get them. I don't have to worry. And that was the underlying themes of the Black Lives Matter protest: was no more unfair treatment based on the color of your skin. That's it. Pretty reasonable message. It's funny that a lot of people who say, "Oh, that's not a thing," can't be bothered to sit and listen to it. But then again, I guess it's easier to discount something when you pretend it isn't a problem. But there was no intention to destroy. There was no scaling of walls specifically to intimidate and terrorize people who were trying to govern and do their jobs. The Black Lives Matter protests were simply a demonstration to bring us together and say, enough is enough. It's time that we put pressure on our governors, on our leaders, to recognize that there are problems in our society that exist for people who have a different skin color that isn't white. That's it. With this, there was no organization. It was all just, come on down. We're just gonna make noise and make a scene and present ourselves. Because if you take a look at a lot of the footage, all you see is just chaos. That's all it is chaos, which is more akin to what a riot is, as opposed to a demonstration with an underlying message and a point. This was just about, nope, Trump won. I don't want to hear any other facts. Nope, I'm right, you're wrong. That was it. And when you don't have any sort of guidance or any sort of intended intention behind it, it's just going to be showing up for all the poops and giggles. And it's all giggles and shits until somebody shits and giggles. Well, guess what? They also shat and giggled all throughout the house. They were walking through their poop up and down the hall. So somebody got paid to clean that up. So thanks a lot. That, and so essentially the brass tacks of it all is it was a riot because there was no point to it. It was just about showing up and causing problems. A protest was about trying to improve lives for everybody.
I can
I don't
see
know
that.
how to confuse people.
I think
about it more.
there were a lot of people who were there that were just angry, and there were some people there who were somewhat organized. And from the protests or the riots, depending on what you would like to call it, when they ransacked the Michigan Capitol, and some of the Proud Boys and groups like that have been reported to be planning, because there was in Columbus, I believe it was, in Ohio, there was one last week in tandem with the one in DC, and there's other ones that are planned. So like there are some semblance of planning, and it's similar somewhat to the BLM stuff as far as like some of it is organized, some of it is not. I do think there were more bad actors who came to hijack the Black Lives Matter peaceful protests and basically ruin it for everyone. There was people in there that were intentionally trying to make them look bad. Also, the police officers were trying to make them do something. There was way more antagonism there, and there was pushing people to the point where it was dangerous just to be out and do these things. The dynamic between the force, the people who had power, and those who didn't, was different. And in some cases, there was an aggressor, and a lot of times that was the police in the Black Lives Matter protests. Now, the Black Lives Matter protests or the riots, the ones that really devolved into like burning the city, the arguments for whether or not something like that really needs to happen to finally get the nation to be aware and progress. And I would argue there is legitimacy behind some of that revolutionary aspect. Chris and I have talked about this. One of the things on the show was like, sometimes you do need a revolution. I would say that the stuff that they were doing in some cases was justified because property is property and lives do matter more than property. The specific attack that they had in DC, in my opinion, being more of a riot, is it's almost not even so much the riot. It was I don't know. I feel it was more coordinated and organized than Keith does, but in the end, it was purely malicious. Like it was their in destruction and antagonism and stopping the government and thwarting democracy was the goal. The moment they left the rally, after Trump basically told them we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and of course he didn't do anything because he never does anything. So I would argue that it was more of a riot because it's malicious intent, and it was just absolutely utterly ugly. And a lot of the Black Lives Matter stuff, the people who were really there for the protest really were there in peaceful protest, and I think there were bad actors who weren't part of the Black Lives Matter stuff that really did a lot of the damage. That's something that we've seen and learned after the fact, and I don't think that's going to be the same kind of dynamic that we'll see from the analysis of the people in DC.
And that's fair. I think if you remove just that aspect, though, let's remove the bad actors. Let's move past that. Let's just remove that for now. And I'm not saying you're incorrect, actually, Hannon. I'm not going to argue with you about it. I'm just saying is let's remove that piece of it for a second and say there's two things going on here. One, the reason they're protesting down there and the reason they started to break into the Capitol was to stop senators or to get somebody's attention. One of the two. So it depends on who you talk to. Will depend on how they had that conversation. The difference, though, is that they're protesting something that comes from the president, something that has been contested in court and demonstrated is fault. And yes, if there's some fake votes or there's some bad votes, right? Again, not going to disagree that does happen, but not on that big of a scale, right? And so you're talking about the largest conspiracy coordinated effort by the DNC and maybe even like the liberal or the anti-Trump RNC to steal an election. That is so far up here, it's not even funny. And the best part about this,
that would be even harder than 9/11.
If you go back and look at all of the data and you go back and look at posts, not only did Trump say if he doesn't win, it's a steal, he said this. He said this whole thing more than one time, well before the election. Also, analysts are saying it would take longer for some of these votes to be counted because of how mail-in votes happen in certain states and because how they were trying to stop it. So not only did you have somebody saying it'll be a steal, the other side saying, hey, hold on a second, like we got a problem here and nobody's addressing this. So that is the big deal, in my opinion, right there, is that. Did I stop?
No, the intent basically is what you're saying. So like making this, this is so more of a riot because it's based on fallacious and bad information. Yeah,
they're doing it based on bad information, and them they're actively killing. They were actively killing people, and so like that's the biggest concern that has happened is that they went out and they killed an officer, right? And there wasn't an officer killed in BLM in that same mentality. Nobody grabbed them and beat them to the ground.
Yeah, the gentleman that I believe was killed was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher, and then I think last night or this morning, one of the police officers killed himself. So that's, as far as I know, the count was up to 6 now. But
anyway, we can move past this. People say this is a dumb question, but you tell me why. Join the show. I want to truly know why people think that, because to me, it's not a dumb question. This is not something that came from me. This is not something that came from a liberal outlet. This came from somebody that was at the fucking protest. And here, I have a video of this guy that I took from his Facebook this morning, because he had a public Facebook. I didn't break or hack or do any of that other shit. He had a public Facebook this morning that he no longer has, right? And that's the big issue here, folks, is that and I don't know what's going on. You're going to have to wait a minute, I guess. Unless one of you can trigger the Tanner laptop. But
I'm trying with my brain, but it's not working.
Oh my God. All right. What it is, though, is that this guy is specifically from that there. He's specifically from there, and he essentially is going to explain why they had issues. And I don't know what's going on. So I guess, Hannah, take it over for a second. I got to restart something.
Yeah. In the end, it's the semantics of the situation. So like, you call it a riot. I would call what they did a riot because of the malicious intent and specifically what they were trying to do. And they would call what some of the Black Lives Matter burning cars and things in the street did a riot. And so like in the end, like we can put labels on all those things and. Does it really matter as much whether or not it's called a riot? Yeah, because it can kind of bend and adjust the conversation online and in the news, and when we talk about how they're framing things. So we'll talk about how sometimes the police will say things differently when the situation, or they'll do something differently when there's a minority as the person of interest versus, in this case, a wall of white folks marching towards the Capitol with all intents and purposes the plan to either destroy, kick in the door, be on TV, and just disrupt everything. They were treated differently, and so regardless of what label you call it, in the end, what they were trying to do and the intent of the entire thing is much more important to me. Is so like I wouldn't protest and burn things down because I personally know what it's like to lose material. I know what it's like to lose property and things that you have spent your entire life in a small business building and growing, and it's terrible. It's utterly horrible. Insurance companies are a nightmare. It's just gross. And so like some of the people and some of the Black Lives Matter protests did participate in this. I am hoping that most of them were not part of the communities that were destroyed, because you'd be destroying your own community, which makes things even worse for the people who live there and yourself. And this is part of the conversation we had about whether or not we supported some of the things that were happening in those protests. And I personally would not do and don't think they were helpful. In fact, they made it look like exactly what the Republicans and the conservatives were saying that the minorities are going to do. They're going to burn. And like every time Tommy Lauren got on and said, if Democrats lose, they burn the cities down. If Republicans lose, we don't see us out there knocking down buildings and stuff, which that tweet did age like fine milk, right? But in the end, it's what was the intent of what they're doing and trying to do. They honestly do believe, I think they believe that someone stole this election. And it's so like, if it's in your head, if that's where you are, you're gonna feel like you were right and I was wrong, and if it's in my head that you are completely and utterly wrong, but I also have evidence to prove that you were completely and utterly wrong, reality is on my side as far as whether or not what you're doing is legal and justified, because justice doesn't care what the law of land is. Slavery used to be legal. It was a law. The law said that you could do that. And so in my eyes, what the Black Lives Matter folks are doing is protesting unjust laws and unjust systemic systems. What the those fine folks who are fine people on both sides, right, that were kicking down doors and actually killed a cop, and they all have thin blue line stickers on the back of their car. Go figure, right? Those guys, what they were doing was essentially anti-democratic. And so I would say that morally speaking, what they were doing is way worse than if some cars and some buildings and some storefronts got damaged, because they were essentially attacking the basis and the foundation of this country. So it's sad that we're talking semantics and we're trying to figure out like, well, what should we call it? In all reality, it's pretty straightforward who was doing something ethical and moral, and who was doing something just utterly disgraceful when it comes to being a citizen of this country.
Yeah.
And this guy here is the guy on Facebook who was there.
So here is the guy. Yep. And I'm gonna blast him, and I don't care. Like this is Chris saying,
That's fine.
if you have a public profile and had a public video, go fuck yourself. Here it is. This guy is one of the people that went to the protest, went there, and he thinks he's an American patriot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they honestly believe it.
Hello.
How you doing?
He's not very good.
Crystal's just there's a try to make this extremely short so that it'll be viewed and hopefully shared. But I tell you again, after the 6th, after Wednesday, just listening to so many people talk about the behavior of the people um, at the Capitol building. Um, my my point is y'all need to really pace yourself. I've said this before a bit, but I got to say it again. I'm going to start out by saying two wrongs don't make a right. You know, you just one bad behavior isn't used to justify another bad behavior. But the Bible also, says as much as within us to live peaceable. And
Yeah. Now, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. This guy is not very good at his orator skills at all. I think
Have
he's
you listened to me
retired.
talk? Come on.
No. This guy is bad. But so essentially, not only is he's ultra religious, so he's off the charts religious, and he also believes he's a like aggressive libertarian. And then on top of that, he has this constitutionality that he's been protesting. He also is an anti-masker and anti-COVID.
And understand, I'll speak for myself. I've been to the Capitol many times. I was there for Obamacare when Bart Stupak caved because Obama wrote the executive order taking abortion out. Matter of fact, I was invited.
Yeah. So we had this on the podcast. I don't know, what was it? 3 weeks ago? It was 2 weeks ago. We talked about Christmas tree bills. So he's there protesting Obamacare because they took abortion out of it. Well, to ban abortion. Now, hold on a second. Obamacare was just supposed to be universal health care, not this whole conglomerate of abortion garbage.
Into the Capitol building with.
So hold on. He went and protested at the Capitol for something that had nothing to do with what he was doing.
With a couple of my family members. And I actually kind of wonder at that point. We were invited. We had bullhorns. We were making noise. I wonder if I wasn't invited in to make noise, quite honestly. Think about that. But
who would invite him in?
Fought for 10 years trying to get the Republicans to, well, actually support the Constitution and so on. It hasn't worked, folks. And so while we're going in and we're making as big a point as we possibly can on Wednesday.
So here he's saying we're going in to make a big point, but then he will later tell you he never actually went in.
And I had no idea what was going on inside the building until we got a picture on the way out. We're there to be very loud and to make a point. Okay, you could argue it's bad behavior. I argue it's as much as within us live peaceable. I've tried to live peaceable. Okay, and
again, so there's a huge point. He's tried to live peaceable, which I assume he means peacefully with other people and other decisions. I don't think peaceable is a word. And if I ever say it just kick me off the show. Just kick me off.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's
okay.
It's a real word.
I've never heard that word before. Peaceable. You should find the definition, Hannah, while we're watching
these
this.
guys need to know that their bad behavior, their poor governance, their lawlessness comes with a cost. Now, here's my point. Again, you can look at us with dirty hands, being ugly, but look, all you people that ignore the lawlessness with the people.
Yeah. So he's complaining about lawlessness of the people. He's complaining about, oh my God, nobody's standing up, and he's calling out Republicans in fairness too. But his whole thing is
like
just
that. Be in
that
for a little bit of a rough spot here, folks.
We're going to be in for a rough spot.
So I want you to consider all the times you sat quiet when Whitmer basically cheered on the Black Lives Matter riots this summer, burning vehicles in the street, busting out windows. Did you ask for her impeachment? I'm just asking. Did you ask for her impeachment? And my goodness.
So this is what triggered the whole conversation thing. So for those of you in the chat asking that question, here you go. This triggered it. And it's not him that actually triggered that question. It's people in the comment section before all of this got banned or before he disappeared. There was comments in there agreeing with him, asking the same question. So it's not just him that believes this.
To think I'm here, defending Trump, and I'm not saying his comments didn't send things down that way, but I'm saying we wouldn't have been there if you all would have voted for Exodus 1821 people, and if they weren't available, if you would have raised them up to fill office, and if you wouldn't have supported them. We've shirked our duties for a long time. So please, and it's, oh my gosh, you representatives out there that get
he just took the Lord's name in vain.
face on.
I know.
After this last summer that we've had to encounter, oh my goodness. And now the video's coming out about what all happened to tee this up where the people went in there. And you're going to continue with that same notion? Man, I tell you, you wonder why people are mad to the point of, look at folks, when I saw that first video, the first picture of a blurry picture of somebody making it into the Capitol, I thought, oh my gosh, this guy has some major stones. How did this possibly happen? But again, we're going there to make a point, okay? I had no idea about someone getting shot. I had no idea about things getting broken and so on. I didn't know. But I got to tell you, I was glad that a point was being made. And frankly, if the representatives had to lay on the ground, I'm sorry if I'm not upset about that. I'm not, So final thought, and I'll get off. The tree of liberty needs to be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants from time to time. It's its natural manure. My point is that the lackadaisical attitude, the poor governance that's been voted in over and over and over, where the Bill Heisingas, the Fred Uptons, all these other pieces of garbage, the Governor Snyders, and you get my point.
Do we though?
Bad.
It comes with consequences.
I hate all of those
folks.
people.
Do not want it. Have not wanted it. I fought against it for years. But when old people are going over the wall into tear gas with a look on their face that would melt your heart because they saw their country, like today, Wednesday was the day, the last gasp to stop communism from coming in. I'm sorry if I'm not apologetic. I'm sorry if I'm not apologetic for helping them over the wall. I'm not. So, just a couple of thoughts.
There. Now, this sets the whole stage, and I know we're already 42 minutes into the episode, and I apologize because I had technical difficulties on my computer and all of that. But this right here is the stage setter to why Trump got banned on Twitter, why the Parler accounts are a disgrace, all of this. Now, you can't, have we ever on this show said the blood of tyrant or the blood of patriots the tree of liberty needs to be washed by the blood of patriots or the blood of tyrants? Have we ever said that on this show other than just like right there? Have we ever called to arms anybody? I mean, what the fuck? And you want to talk about what's going on and why people are saying that Trump's inciting? Now, I'm gonna pull this other weird, crazy thing. Has either of you seen Mindhunter on Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
A show about serial killers. Mindhunter.
9.
No.
That is the German word for no.
Boop, boop. Okay, thank you. Just say no next time. I'm not German enough to know it, so thank you. So, like, the whole point, though, is they actually interviewed Charles Manson, and they kind of, like, talked through it, and I know it's a fictional show, but they took some of the real things. Charles Manson was indicted specifically as, like, a cult-type leader, as somebody that was inspiring these type of things. Here you have an individual that has gone on Twitter that went on to a rally that basically said, hey, this is wrong. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I mean, if you took it over, I would still be president again. We're going to still be here if you do these things. Come on. How is that not somewhat insightful? And that, folks, there you go. I'll use not his terminology, but that's the problem here is that.
Oh, hang on. That actually reminds me of something that was said back during 2016. He basically said, at a rally in North Carolina, something about, well, you Second Amendment people, you might be able to stop Hillary. Who the fuck says that other than somebody who's looking to try to incite violence or to try to create some calamity that he can go, oh, well, I never told them to do it? Because trolls like him know that as long as they don't actually come out and say, no, you need to be violent, and we have to undermine democracy as it is, blah blah blah, you can, with the right words, convince enough people to create reasonable doubt, because that is at the point we're at in the society. And that's one of the things that really pisses me off, is that all you have to do is create reasonable doubt, a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of bullshit, just to basically make it so that you can't be 100% accused, because to 100% accuse you would basically to be accusing you of thought crime, because there's no way to claim that you wanted that without basically saying, it has to have been your intentions, or, we read your mind and that's what you were thinking, blah, blah, blah. But that's the gray area that guys like him always live in, is that it's just enough that they can get away with whatever the fuck they want. And I think I've just added our explicit tag now. But it's never about it's never about coming out and saying it, because as long as you never explicitly say it, as if you have the money, you can afford a lawyer who can convince people that you never actually said what you tried to say. Even if everybody can sit there and mount a big enough case and say you never came out and called these people out, which is part of the reason why we got pissed off at him for never actually coming out and saying, white supremacists are bad people, because, some of his best friends were white supremacists and he wouldn't want to make them feel bad. And that's all it takes, is just as long as they never come right out and say it, but and they know that as long as they can get enough people behind them, they're fine, they're golden. And we're seeing the consequences of this right here, right now.
Yep.
I never told them to riot. They just did it of their own. Well, yep. You set the stage for it, so maybe take responsibility for that. Oh, but I didn't do it. It's not my fault.
Oh, yeah, this 538 article talks about how he helped take extremist views from the fringe of society to a mob attack on the Capitol. And we don't have to go through this whole article. I'll be honest, it's a great read. If you got 15 minutes in the toilet or 15 minutes before bed, well, don't read it before you go to bed. You might get a little angry. Essentially, this read talks about the vacuum that was created, where people are left, and then how he continues to create a hole by forcing his side into it. And people are saying they found a solid majority of Americans who are opposed to this. But those that are storming the Capitol are still registered voters. Those are the people. And the new rumor, the new thing that's come out today even, is that there is FBI is investigating, and this is what I heard about last night actually, was that they are investigating attacks on the Capitol, or protests as they want to call them, armed protests on the Capitol on the 17th to the 21st. Think about that.
Yeah, no, they're openly calling for gatherings all over the country. All the groups that were associated with this, they've been any place that'll still host them or let them talk has been saying, let's go here, let's go there. Any site that's small enough that can allow them to kind of gather and talk they've been talking and saying, let's go do this, let's go do that. And the FBI has basically been warning all major metropolitan city areas to increase their security for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing, folks. And last night, I have a friend who works, or who has family that work in law enforcement, and I got a text message saying, go get gas. We don't know what's going on, but they told basically the police to start being on high alert all in every capital city, which is crazy, right? I mean, that's pretty high level, holy shit, what's going on type thing. And guess what? Guess what happened today?
That's a level of organization that changes things.
Yes, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But guess what happened today? They banned open carry inside the Capitol today in Michigan. That's unheard of. Now, you tell me why the hell this couldn't have happened a long time ago, but fine, we're here. They banned that today. You know why? Because people don't want that shit. Because now the threat's real. They stormed the Capitol. They came into the Capitol and said, hey, we're here. We got guns. We're ready to fight you. We killed an officer. What do you want to make of this? And we're not fighting because you're killing us. No one's killed a damn Trump supporter. Yeah. Tell me who the fuck has died from this as a Trump supporter.
The woman.
Did you lose a little bit of your rights? Okay. What? But before
the
that,
one woman they
nobody
shot
had killed
in the
them.
Capitol.
Nobody before that, though.
I was so surprised in Michigan that there wasn't something that happened when they stormed the Capitol. I cannot believe when they were standing in the Michigan State Capitol. And I mean, they were there just yelling into the police faces, and they had their weapons on their persons when they were doing it. I can't believe they didn't ban open carry from that day. How did it just take until today? But I guess legislation takes a little longer, but
no. Yeah. They didn't start till after the 6th. I'm telling you, we're not going to give, if they want to come out and demonstrate and prove that they've been talking about this for months, fine. Okay, fuck you guys. Bring it up. They aren't going to do it. Yeah. And they can't prove it because it just happened. Because people are like, holy shit. If they have guns and they're going to come to our Capitol, we got a problem. What if they do that here? And then all of the reports that are coming out that this is going to be a thing. Yeah. Folks, be prepared. It's funny. You listen to somebody like Jeremiah Bannister or Rush Limbaugh or any of these other people, and they're like, yeah, be prepared because let's go take this back without no things. And I'm saying, let's be prepared. I don't want to get shot. I don't agree with how the police handled some of that protest, but at the exact same time, they turned into a riot, A lot faster, and B, they still use very peaceful tactics compared to what they did at BLM. At BLM, they were constantly macing. They were constantly shooting tear gas. They were constantly arresting. To my knowledge, nobody but anybody that broke into the Capitol got arrested. There was video going on that day of them telling the cops to go fuck themselves, that they should die, and if they could, they'd lynch them right there. Literal, on live stream video. Now, you tell me how that guy didn't get tackled and arrested. Oh, he had a gun. I'm sorry. My bad.
Well, the Black Lives Matter protest at the Capitol, Black Lives Matter at the Capitol already had the National Guard everywhere. They had an army standing on the steps of the Capitol. So they were like, well, these are our Blue Lives Matter. These are our thin blue line buddies. They're not going to do anything like this. And that clearly has changed. The Proud Boys have left their thin blue line, Blue Lives Matter stuff behind. I mean, this is proof of it. So that in the end, even the arch conservatives, the most aggressive conservative group out there, will support the cops as long as they're not supporting, or they're supporting, their version of what's right. If you are supporting, or if you're just laying down the law as it's written and not their twisted interpretation of events or even false events, that they'll step right over a cop's face too. It's one of those things that the libertarian aspect is completely and totally the embodiment and the personification and metastasization of selfishness. It's gross. And this is the idea that I can go stomp around in the Capitol and then they're surprised when they get arrested. I love all the videos of the guys that are like, how you doing now? He's stealing Pelosi's lectern, and now his mugshot's on the internet because it should be. That idiot. And so,
that guy, I hope that guy gets arrested. I hope he does. I don't care
if he was. He has been arrested.
No.
The guy that was carrying the lectern, and then the guy that was sitting in Pelosi's desk. Both of those guys have been arrested.
Yeah. They also arrested the guy with the zip ties that was gonna basically hog tie all of them. They already arrested that guy.
Yeah, there were two of them.
Yep. So I want to show you.
What about the guy who was dressed like Willie from The Simpsons?
That guy has not been arrested. They can't figure out who the hell the guy is or where he is. I don't think.
They already figured out who he was. Somebody else tracked him down. He's an actor, I believe. I mean, he's nuts. Because if you listen to him talk, he's talking about vibrations and things. And to me, the second somebody starts talking about vibrations in the universe, I go, "Oh, I'm not talking to somebody I can be reasonable with. I'm out."
But and you're right, maybe they arrested him too. I have not seen him, but all right. So I'm gonna show you a site, Hannah, that's gonna tickle your data noodle here in a minute. You're gonna love this. Because we talked about We Are Data before, and this is a subreddit that is hoarding right now all the DC protest posts. But before we get to there, I want to do a quick roundtable because I want to hear from Buddy a little bit. I want to know, and then we'll go to Hannah, and then we'll come back to me, and then we'll keep moving with this. But I want to understand from both of your guys' perspective, right? Tell me, what do you think about some of this data protection type thing, right? So we have hackers that are taking some of the data. We have public posts that are being archived, and they're already public. So do you believe things should have been hacked to take all the Parler data? Do you believe people should be archiving? And do you kind of believe that this data, if you post it on Facebook or whatever, should be made public so other people can see?
That's really a big gray area for me, because on the one hand, I am a firm believer in free speech for the simple fact that if you're an asshole, I'd like to know that you're an asshole by the words of your mouth. If you're a racist, I'd like to hear you say racist things so I know better than to try talking to you and assuming that you're a decent person. Now that said, I also have some belief that we do have a right to our own private thoughts. I don't believe in thought crime. Where this is starting to become gray, and maybe I just haven't put enough thought into this to really formulate a better, more nuanced approach to this idea. But it does kind of concern me, and I can understand the one point of we can't really act on it because we have to be able to verify the information, right? Like we can't just assume that it's true just because somebody says, oh well, I got this from all the Parler and here you go. It requires a degree of verification as well, simply because anybody who's smart enough could just grab data, mishmash it, and whatever. It's just to me it does hit that gray area, and I'm not sure that I'm entirely comfortable with it. And the same was with that Ashley Madison leak too. I mean, I know that's obviously something wildly different. That's just people who are cheating on their partners with AI bots, basically, because women don't need to go on those things. I'm being facetious. Is that the word? I don't know. I'm being an ass. Anyways, it's on the one hand, yeah, you have a right to a private life, but on the other hand, being an asshole, being a racist, being a bigot, that's where you kind of stop really being a private douchebag.
So you're drawing the line, essentially, Buddy, at saying because this content for these riots and things like that is pre-planned, and it specifically involves believing fake news and trying to take out terrorist acts like that, therefore it's not as protected as somebody that cheats on their wife or somebody that says "knigget" on Facebook.
I did that once. Okay, one time.
Which one cheated on you? I don't want to know. Moving on. Hannah. Hannah.
For me on this one, it's so basically what we're looking at is, are we allowed to put things on the internet and then hide behind a wall so that people don't know about that? So are we allowed in our society to put on our little pointy white hood and go hang out in Bill's basement and be grossly racist and like crazy conspiracy theory, theological, nut jobs or whatever? And then the question is, if you do that, then and someone finds out about it and they tell everybody in the town, is that person being bad, wrong, or evil? And it's the paradox of tolerance. Karl Popper's old idea states that if a society is tolerant without limit, its ability to be tolerant is eventually seized and destroyed by the intolerant. Essentially, if we give them room and we're tolerant of them, eventually they will take over and we will be destroyed because we gave them room. If you've seen the idea that we should make racists ashamed again, and this is part of that. These people are unfortunately, they are going to be sacrificed to the fires of equality. Because guess what? The only way you create a society that has the ability to function is that there are consequences to your actions, and there needs to be a couple of examples. Sometimes they're going to be harsher. I would say that a lot of people that busted in and did, these grotesque things in the Capitol, they're not going to have 50 years in jail, but there's going to be some jail time and some punishment and so whatever. And then the people who are being doxxed on the internet, they may lose their jobs, they may have family problems. But you know what? If you're a racist, idiot, bigot, and you join Proud Boys and any other group like that, and you proclaim that we should overthrow the government and kill non-believers and Muslims and whatever other gross things that a lot of these groups like to talk about, then someone finds out about that, and it kind of messes your life up. That's kind of the point, right? If you're espousing those kinds of things and someone finds out, it has consequences. And so I'm not entirely and totally freaked out, because I also, if a website got attacked and all of my atheist views and stuff got out there, in maybe in my community, in my local, at work or something like that, there probably would be some consequences. I would bet that they're probably not going to be nearly as bad as if I had a picture of me, walking through Black Lives Protest Matter, burning stuff or whatever. Like that would be guaranteed get fired in some communities in Ohio here, and then vice versa, flip it around for KKK hood in an inner city area or something, whatever it is. But those extreme views, there should be consequences for it. And the fact that hackers and some of these people are recording everything on the internet, and they're not going to let some of these guys slip away, and there will be some actions. And there are scared people right now. There are scared people who posted a few things and they're like, is this going to come back and get me? And they, for the rest of their life, hopefully will think twice before they do something like that on the internet. And that's kind of the goal, in my opinion, why I think this isn't the worst thing. In fact, in some cases, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me here is you have people wearing shirts like Camp Auschwitz, right?
Camp Auschwitz,
You're
they found that guy.
Yeah, you're wearing an openly anti-Semitic shirt. I think it was a sweatshirt. I don't think it was a shirt.
It was a sweater.
It was a sweatshirt.
And I'm saying is where
sweater.
I'm more of whatever the fuck it was. Who knows? It was a sweater or a sweatshirt.
It was a cardigan.
It was something
Ethan.
on his body that was cotton. Probably was a blend against God anyway, so he shouldn't have been
poly
wearing
blend.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, at least he had the beard and the hair to go with it. He didn't cut his beard or his hair, so I don't know. Maybe does that count for something?
You look like a Michigan militia guy.
Yeah. And
A Michigan?
Oh my God, no, he's not. He's not from. I have no idea where he is. I don't think he's from Michigan. Hold on, let me double check. Oh, they don't say where he's from, so I don't know if they've ID'd this guy or not. But you're sitting here telling me, I am very for allowing the public to police some of this stuff, and I say this because if we look at humanistic values to some extent. And this is where the discussion we had last week was, I'm for getting rid of some of Section 230 and expanding it and putting government regulations. And you go back to the video to watch, we had a whole very spirited debate between the three of us about it, where I probably was the one that was more the oddball out there. And my big thing here, fuck you. But my big thing here is saying that we have to do something. Like, I've been for outing some of these people for a long time. My wife doesn't like it a lot of the time. She, especially if it's for minor things, I'm very aggressive to the point where it's like, I'm going to get in your face, that type of thing. Like, somebody like a Jeremiah Bannister can't lose his job because he didn't fucking have a job. So it's not like you can out him all you want. He doesn't care. That's why he can be so bold. But some of these other people that left their jobs, it's like, hey, we should know who I'm working with. And I have a friend who's an ultra libertarian. Him and I disagree on so many things. But he disagrees with these riots. He 100% disagrees. He thinks it's wrong. He's like, he believes they should have the right to protest, but when they're starting to break into the Capitol with basically weapons to take care of things, and when they're bullying a cop, come on. When you kill a cop and then you start bullying cops just so you can get in, we've got a problem. And I will agree to disagree with him a little bit on that, but at the exact same time, at least we both can say, hey, what they're fighting for is bullshit and wrong to some extent. And like, even he doesn't believe, he believes there's some stealing and he doesn't want to lose Trump, but it's only because he doesn't want to lose Trump. It's not as much because he actually believes it, and he's not for this aggressive change. He believed that they should be able to challenge it in the courts. He believed all of that. And guess what? They did. They lost. He says, I don't know how it would happen any other way. You know, you can't have a bunch of Republican judges vote against Trump just for any reason, right? You know, they wouldn't do that. So
well, they just did over and over and over.
Yeah. And so long story short is he sees this as, we need to give this up. And what do we have to do better to either figure out how to get back into, back into office again, what he's telling, and get rid of the Democrats that are ruining the nation. And he's welcome to that. But he didn't go to the Capitol. He didn't storm. And yeah, he owns a lot of fucking guns, man. A lot. But he's not going to storm the Capitol and try and kill people because of that. And that's the problem, is these people are being incited. They're like these crazy cult people. And I'll tell you what, if you had a private post to some extent, should it be made public? That's a very hard line. I have a harder time with. But at the same time, if you can be demonstrated to be creating insurrection, to be creating like aggressive, violent behavior, like we're going to storm the Capitol and take people hostage, yes, every right does all your information get to be public. And I say that because I was just related to child pornography, and I should be very careful what I say, because we got banned for a week from YouTube because of me saying one thing, even if it was negative against that. And so the idea, though, is if you would say any child pornographer should have their files searched and gone after, then you should be able to do the same thing for anybody planning to take over the government. And I will say the same thing, even if BLM says we're going to stage national protests and take over the government to stop the killing of black people. Even if that happened, I will still stand on the same side and say the same thing. Your shit should be national. You're attempting a coup of the government. And that's what leads me into going through and saying, hey, look what this Reddit field has, minus all the bullshit advertisements that somehow knows I need a new station for my MacBook. But here's all of their archiving. And this is why you, Hannah, tomorrow and the next day, every time you poop, just go to this Reddit. Don't go anywhere else. Ignore the rest of the whatever data you consume and only read these. Because look, there's people in here, they're posting and archiving all sorts of stuff. Here's a Discord chats and servers of people from Trump, right? Crazy. There's so much data in here.
I mean, but like also the question is like all of these, Discords and all this kind of stuff. If it's getting stolen, like the Parler stuff, this is freaky. For Parler or Parlay, to get like a verified account, you have to give them your social security number. Did you know that?
Oh, I did. We don't. Just so you know, Cellar Door Skeptics does have a Parler account, or did, but we were not verified. I was not giving up my social security number or anything.
Well, no, you don't want the Russian bots to use it to get a job.
Their website has been known to be relatively bad as far as their security is concerned, and a variety of other things. Like this is part of this is what I was saying a little bit ago, is like make people a little bit scared to post things online. Also, it should make people a little bit scared to put just anything on websites. Make you skeptical about just using sites that are like, hey, I'm free, give me your things. Like, just like make everybody a little skeptical and a little anxious and have a little bit of anxiety about putting more and more of your stuff out there. That's a healthy place for us all to be, even if you're a racist, bigoted asshole. I mean, it is in all reality. Hide a little bit. Don't put all your stuff out there, and it won't be a bad thing. It's going to be really painful for a couple of people, but it's if you put society on the trolley problem right now, there's going to be a couple of MAGA hats that are going to be on that one side and all the other people are on the other side, and someone's got to pull a lever, and it's going to take out a couple of people right now. I mean, that's just going to be what's going to happen. when it comes to that.
So that we linked the Reddit if you want to go through all that. I'm not going to go through all the DC stuff. Like, there's a lot in there. We could spend another hour just going through that and talking about the people, the videos. I'll be honest though, you could ask my daughter. I cried. I sat there and watched some of these feeds, just sitting there going, "What is wrong with some of these people?" Like, I get people were upset when they saw businesses burning, but you're not watching the Capitol burn, and you're watching it burn for a bullshit reason. That's my thing. You're watching it burn because you think the election stole, I don't know.
It's
I gotta
demonstrably
stop, or we're gonna go on a
false.
whole nother
Like, that
rant.
is
This is just be like a Tanner rant episode and I'm telling you, I'm fired up. Like, I'm angry. I'm pissed off. I wish more people would step up and say, "Y'all dead to me. You support this. You're dead. Like, you are not somebody we should associate with." And it's a very hard thing, I think, sometimes for people to do. And like, I won't ask my family members their opinion. I'm not going to, because I will have to stop talking to people. There'll be big arguments. So it's like, hey, go ahead and do what you got to do. But I'm not going to have that conversation just at this point yet, because this is a very hard topic, and this is a big line I stand behind. And I know a lot of people say, well, they stand behind not burning buildings down. Guess what? No Trump supporter was killed before this. Y'all just think Donald Trump should be king fucking emperor of shit-stained nation. There you go. Maybe we should retitle the episode that. I don't know. Buddy, so did you hear about this, though? A permanent suspension for Donald Trump?
I sure did. I didn't believe it at first. I won't lie.
Yeah,
I was very much in disbelief, because I was like, wait, after months of not bothering to do a damn thing, years of not bothering to do a damn thing, Twitter is finally saying, no, Donnie, no. And on the one hand, part of me is suspecting that was a political maneuver on their part, trying to basically make it seem like they were still giving the president a platform. They weren't just hopping into the leftist spheres of the internet, and suddenly they were the leftist oppressors, even though they're always called that whenever a bigots and gets called out and pays consequences for it, because freedom. And so my suspicion is that they thought it was in their best interest to just let him do his thing, let him just keep feeding rope so he can make his own noose for later. And if that's the case, then cool. Mission definitely accomplished. You can definitely say that he was using your platform to try to incite riots, and I'm loving the new trend of all of the people poking fun at him trying to continue to use Twitter and pop up and under different names, and putting picture of his mustache, or of him with a mustache on, and being like, "Hi friends, how are you?" The greatest of parody accounts are really. It's my thoughts on this whole banhammer thing, like getting away from my rampant speculation as I love to do. The people who are calling it a First Amendment issue, if you support a free market, I would like you to explain to me how businesses should be mandated by a government to allow everybody to use their thing. If you think businesses shouldn't or government shouldn't be interfering with business in your idea of the free market, why is it that businesses aren't allowed to make business decisions when they're negative against you, when suddenly you might have to find another way because they don't like you, because businesses have decided that you are not ideal for them? This is one of the few free market things that I'll admit that I do adhere to, is that a place like Twitter has a name for itself. It has something that they have to maintain in order to make money. Now, they probably are at a place where they don't really need to worry too much if all of a sudden they were to just kind of let everybody do whatever the hell they want, devil may care type content popping up everywhere. But ultimately, they're a business that has a right to say, I don't like the way you use our platform. You do not pay to use our platform. Therefore, we don't have to do anything to cater to you, you have to cater to us to use our platform, and you have abused our platform for your own nefarious outcomes, and we just no longer wish to allow you to do business. I mean, it happens all the times. Companies will just stop working with other companies because they no longer agree with the business model, because they disagree with things that have happened, whatever. It's a business thing. And yeah, I get that. I understand that private enterprise, you as a company, you have to make your own decisions for you.
Well, you know
And
what's
that's going to
funny?
happen.
You know what's funny?
Same thing with
The
Twitter.
whole
Same thing
gay
with,
baker thing just like made way for this, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you
That's what I
think
was gonna
about
say.
it,
in some ways,
I
yeah,
mean,
it
it's
absolutely
weird
did.
we think the same way, Hannah. That's weird.
And it's so funny that it's good for you to bring that up, because the same people who support a bakery's right to not make a cake because gay people are oogie, will get upset because, well, they won't let me be racist now. They're infringing on my First Amendment rights to free speech. I mean, I'm still allowed to say whatever the hell I want, but they're just not letting me do it from their platform. And it's just all juvenile. I want. I just don't want to give back because I should be the only one to benefit here. And I say it's well within. I support Twitter's decision. I mean, I was upset at their decision to continue to let him do what he was doing, but now that he's finally, been told, no, Donnie, no, you go to bed now. You go away. You're not allowed here anymore. So I don't know. Maybe he's just gonna maybe he'll make MySpace great again. Who knows? Or make MySpace relevant again, I guess would be the better way to put it.
Wait. Is that even an existent website anymore? Hold on.
I
They
don't
turned it
know.
into a music thing. Rupert Murdoch owns it, and as far as I know, it's still functioning. But it's
Oh
like
my God! Look, you can see
a
it.
mu-
It's right here.
yeah,
Oh,
it's like a music.
interesting.
It's a music and media thing. It's kind of like a weird mix between Instagram and YouTube. So and like a
Neat.
Pandora of like there's like Spotify copies. Essentially, you try to copy everything now. But I don't know. For me, when it comes to like the idea of the Twitter and Facebook bans and all that kind of stuff. Like, so we're seeing these social media companies finally do something, right? They've been kind of like beating around the bush. We have less than 10 days until the next president is here, and it's a new president. So too much, too little, too late on their part for me. I mean, where's the risk in all reality? Where's your big tech risk here? We finally banned him. He has a week and a quarter left. Like, wow, you guys really took a big risk there. And then you did it right after he did something that is almost, I mean, very easily provable in a court, illegal, inciting violence, and inciting sedition through a group of people. Like these, none of these things are really hard decisions to make, and there's no risk. Twitter had some losses of its stock, but in the end, like they didn't take a risk and they didn't take a stand. They made little tiny little paper cuts, and it didn't do any damage. And they really could have done something. They could have taken the chance and done the right thing earlier on, saying, listen, no, this is wrong, and we can see it's wrong, and a bunch of people are seeing it's wrong. And we could have had the conversation about tech media banning people and that kind of stuff. And that brings in the argument for the gay cake baker, right? There's a difference between that, though, is that being a private corporation and saying you will not bake a cake because someone is gay is legally provably discriminatory. It's you are doing something that is discriminating against someone, and you're not providing a service because of a discriminatory practice. In our society, in most places throughout the entire country, we have decided that discriminating on someone based on X factor, in almost every case, except for a couple that haven't been specifically named, and those are slowly being changed, that's not allowed. You can't do that. People are people. If you have a business, you have to serve people. And there's only a few places where we have to deal with that still. Trump's actions are, like I said earlier, they are illegal. And so if you're using a platform to say, I won't bake your cake on that platform. That's discriminatory, and we have to deal with that a little bit. But it's not openly, completely, and totally illegal at this moment. What Trump did is completely and totally illegal, and he's using their platform to say those things. And in their little platform bylaws, it says if you do something illegal on our platform, we can just kick you out. And so there's a little bit of a difference, and it's semantics and nitpicking a little bit, but like he did something illegal on a platform, and in the rules of that platform it says if you do something illegal, we can kick you out. Like he violated the rules. And so I think they didn't do enough, and I do think that they're in their right, obviously. And if someone on the left, if AOC or Bernie Sanders or somebody, I don't know, shot someone on Fifth Avenue and they did it on a live stream on Facebook,
Wait,
I would be like, okay, Facebook
didn't
can
Trump
ban
say
them.
He could do that.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. But
Okay.
anyways, if
Sorry,
if they did say, but like if leftist leaders did something as openly and clearly illegal, then it would be. I mean, I by principle of saying that I want to live in a world with the most truth would have to be like, okay, yeah, that should be allowed. And Trump violated that rule. The president, POTUS, has not been banned. It has been stopped because President Donald Trump is behind it. And so when Biden gets in, he'll be able to use the POTUS Twitter page or whatever, which is good, I guess.
Well, that's what's funny. Why is he not using that? I don't know. We're gonna move on
Because
he's not allowed to use it the way he wants to.
Well, it's weird that they can do that, but we're gonna move on to the last part because I want to get to our quick saves tonight. We have some really good ones I'm excited for. But we have here, Parler has been stopped. So just a quick background before we get to this actual Reddit thread. And I guess Reddit, well, y'all know, you've been listening to this show for how long? I'm a Reddit guy. I love Reddit. My favorite thing. I go through a lot of Reddit. I spend way too much time on Reddit. It's the best. I don't know what to tell you. It's got better data than any other data you've ever seen. I don't know.
I'm kind of bummed by Reddit
data.
though. Like while I was sick, I was bummed at how slow new information comes up. When I first started using Reddit a long time ago, you could flip to the front page in 2 hours and a completely different set of websites would be there. Now that's not the case, and it's kind of a bummer. Like you can go a whole day and still see the same couple of posts on the front page, which is frustrating. But anyways, so Parler Watch and Parler's hosting site, I'm assuming is what you're going to talk about.
Well, what's happened is Parler has been. So what happened is Parler essentially was banned from downloading the app on Google Play and on Apple within one day. Both of them agreed to it this weekend. Aww. And if you already have the app, you can still have it. Then Amazon came out Saturday and said, guess what? Our servers, which host a lot of the world's data, which, by the way, Amazon doesn't make their money off Prime. They make it off their servers. Just so you know, like, before we get into this anti-Amazon rant, because I don't want to go down that road, because I don't disagree, but really, the money they make is off their hosting services. That's where they make their money, folks. But anyway, so they essentially told them, fuck you, we're not hosting you anymore. We're done. We're cutting it. You got till Sunday night, find another provider. That's crazy. That is 100%, like, that's unheard of. You know, like the Google and the Apple banning the app, that's pretty aggressive, but not unheard of. But it's still pretty minority to have that happen. But for Amazon to say, we're not going to take your money, we're not going to actually take money. As a capitalist organization, where the owner made billions of dollars off of us last year.
Yeah.
And
$10 million an hour.
Yeah. He's saying, I'm rich enough to say, fuck you. So here's one good thing. The only good thing that's come out of capitalism is that. Like, that's the only good thing.
Well, it happened after the shooting in the Charleston shooting, or the Charleston car killing, and the riots and the protests and stuff that they had there. Is that all of the storm, a lot of the hosting sites that were hosting groups that were at those protests, though they lost their hosting, and there were a bunch of those sites and like Nazi pages that were searching for someone that would host them. And so similar things happen. It wasn't as high profile as Amazon saying no, but it's like it's nice to see that a big deal. But there were a couple of conservative magazines that were dropped, and like they just lost their hosting and they had to scramble to find a new one. 4chans and 8chans and all the other chans have lost a bunch of stuff. They're all hosted in the Philippines as far as I know now. So like that's what they go to these weird servers and they get on tours and they hide in the dark recesses in the basement where they should be, because they're horrible, gross things. They should be in the dirty basement of the world. And either way, that's where they'll pop up again.
Dark web.
Mm-hmm.
Web.
Most people can't get on the dark
get
web.
away with it. But anyway, if we go back real quick, and I don't want to spend too long, there's a Reddit thread that has archived, and I am not stating you should do this, not at all. But there's a Reddit thread that archived all the Parler data for everybody because there was a hack, because Parler was that shitty of a site that they had that many gaps and holes. All the data is available, and no, I'm not going to click on any of this, but Data Hoarders is in here, so I'm saying, but somebody stole all the fucking data from them, and it's like, oh my god, Parler, why'd you use WordPress? We don't even use WordPress anymore, but like, we're this mini stupid little podcast. You're a fucking multi-million-dollar organization that had the potential to be like the next neo-Nazi platform and pro-conspiracy platform. And you fucked it all up.
Well, last I heard they had
security.
Last I heard they had 600,000 users. So
they might have had more. I don't know. We were one of them. We had a Parler account that basically just posted our podcast. Just so you know, like it just posted the podcast. That's all it did.
Candace Owens. I mean, everybody loves that nice lady. She went 6 months in between her posts. She said everybody was moving there. A bunch of conservative pundits moved there. Candace Owens went 6 months between posts. So, I mean, those users were there, but they're not users. Nobody was really a user. All the people that said they were moving to Parler. A parlay. They didn't use it. They were just saying it, and then they got back on their Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, no, Candace Owens knew she couldn't. Like, people like her know that fringe little outlets like Parler will never generate the same traffic as the mainstream social medias that are like Twitter and Facebook. I mean, she was still posting deliberately inflammatory bullshit on Twitter about, Harry Styles wearing a dress on a magazine because
Ted Cruz said he was going.
Gender norms aren't actually a thing. Well, Ted Cruz is also not a human being that we're aware of, so there's that. And
Zodiac.
There was a comment that I wanted to make because when you were talking about the security on Parler and how its security was just absolutely atrocious. There's a little fun fact that I learned a few years back is if you websites that are more likely to carry viruses are pages kind of like Parler, pages like really religious websites, things like that. And you're not as likely to find viruses, malware, shit like that on porn sites because they know their audience. They know their traffic. They go, I want people to keep coming back. Whereas the other sites, they know that the only people who really go to those websites are people who don't know as much about internet security. So they don't have the firewall. They don't have antivirus software. They don't have any malware or things like that. So they go to those websites and they get absolutely riddled with bugs because those sites don't have the security to protect their users. Whereas
what
you go
is
to
HTTPS?
But yeah, what does the www stand for? I don't understand. Why do I got to put .com? Why can't I just put Google and it takes me away to Google?
Well, don't you have .ca?
Listen. Every country has one. Okay, I think U.S. might be the only one that doesn't really regularly use it and just goes to .com
because we created it, so we don't have to do whatever we want.
Oh.
Fair enough.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we're gonna move into quick saves, and I apologize, guys, if there's more to be had after the quick saves, we can go into it, or we can save the after show.
This isn't going anywhere.
I'm sorry. I'm just very this is very upsetting. Like I am definitely very upset by this, and it's hard to say that because like for me the big thing is like why should I have to be this upset? Why are we at this point? I get it. Like, you don't like that Biden's going to be thing. You want this Republican regime. I get it, but Trump is not. It's a cult, and I'm going to challenge both of you to come up with the responses next week, because I called it a Trump aggressive, a cult aggressive, and we're seeing that. You're seeing. We can go back to that episode, but we're seeing this now. This is no longer just a conversation amongst friends where we can go, oh, it could be a cult, it might not be a cult. This is a fucking cult, man. This is some crazy shit.
We'll see if it survives.
Happening.
We'll see if it survives him losing power and not being president any longer. Like, if it keeps going, like parlor and all that, like if it goes past that, because like people will cling on to something with power when he no longer has power and it keeps going.
But does that really demonstrate
we'll
a cult? Because Charles Manson doesn't.
No.
Anymore.
I'm just saying like that.
Jail.
Yeah. But it'll still be like that. It'll be a cool thing to go back to in a couple weeks or something to talk about. Because, like, for me, staying power is a big deal. And
all right,
I mean,
there you go. Set your watch and we'll bank on it right there, or we'll warrant on it, whatever the fuck that saying is.
Cool. That'd be
all
fun.
right. So here's my quick save for the week. And this is kind of funny, and it's funny because Boyce is in this, and it's not why I'm posting it. Yes, Boyce is in this, and I love that guy. And I'm not like the biggest Yang supporter, but I will tell you that I understand and I want to support the majority of people that are supporting younger candidates now. We're not supporting the guy that's like 65, 70 years old. No offense to Bernie, but you know, we're not supporting older people. And I get Bernie, it was a unique soul to some extent, and he's been preaching a lot of what he's been preaching since the early 60s. So I'm not going to sit here and say that like Bernie should be cast out because of his age. What I'm saying is we got younger people taking up the mantle. We got all these other things. And he's
a mentor now. He's not going to be the leader.
What happens if Biden appoints Bernie? He can't, because we lose that Senate seat. That's a huge thing, right? Never thought about that until somebody pointed that out. I was like, wait, hold on a second. Oh, fuck. Bernie. What? Damn it. What happens if the conservative...
Bernie and Warren... Those are two
bad.
major things that would be great if they were in the administration.
Yep.
But you don't want to take Warren out of a Senate seat because she could be potentially judicial leader or who knows what. So
we can't.
She's got a constitutional law background.
Yes, and Warren was my pick this year. You know, like that was my first pick in the long run, but ahead of Bernie, even weirdly to say.
So let's do this Yang Gang thing.
All right, you ready?
Push the button. What are we looking at? This
leaders, we've met the people that are supposed to be saving us, and I promise you, the cavalry's not coming. This is it.
I don't fault people for the incentives that have formed them. The goal has to be to bring in patriots who understand that they're not going to have an enjoyable time trying to turn the battleship, but that if they turn the battleship 3 degrees to the right, they can do more good.
What we're talking about is
that right there. That is the reason I picked this. Like, and again, yes, we can fast forward to Boyce. Boyce is in here. It's very fun to see our buddy Boyce. Like,
yay, I know that guy.
Buddy Boyce, you know, like he's featured in this documentary about Yang. I love that dude. And him and I argue Yang all the time. And it's funny because I just reposted a video that somehow never got posted. And I reposted him and me having a conversation about Yang. And somebody was like, he doesn't even represent Yang correctly. And I'm like, oh, what? Hold on there, buddy. Like, I disagree with you because, like, this dude's been on board well before me. I still am not on board with a lot of Yang's policies, but I'm telling you that right there. Somebody that's saying, look, we want people that don't want to be famous. We want people that want to serve the individuals. That's a humanist principle right there. We can disagree on a lot of what Yang says. Like, I don't support Yang's medical, what he wants for Medicare for people. Like, I don't support his healthcare policies. But that doesn't mean he can't change. That doesn't mean he won't be swayed. That doesn't mean we can't put other young progressives in fucking Congress that will goddamn push him that way. And this, like, just that type of a body, somebody that acknowledges that you're a servant, that's so much different than 99% of what we fucking have in Congress and what we fucking have for representatives. And I encourage you folks, like, this is my big thing. Like you don't got to support Yang. You don't got to support Republicans. You don't got to support Democrats. You don't got to support progressives. What you got to support is somebody that says, I'm not in it for me. This is not about me. This is not about furthering a capitalist agenda or a socialist agenda. This is about how do I further what the people want. And not what they want, but what will do them the best and the least amount of harm. How do I create the least amount of harm? That's my quick save for the week. You can watch the whole 2-hour documentary. The music's kind of annoying, to be honest with you, but it's a very good documentary, and it's very informative if you were not like on the cusp of watching everything Yang. And I wasn't, because I don't agree with all he says. I like the guy. I'll tell you what, I'll tweet more of his shit than a lot of other people's because we agree on the principle of things, but we just don't always agree on how to get there. You know, I don't know. I could be wrong. You think I'm wrong, Hannah? I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just curious to see where and what he goes and does in his near future. There's talk about him looking about doing some New York City mayors racing and some of that other stuff. So I'm really curious to see as his political career develops what he'll do, because I think he has a lot of great ideas. And I mean, to build as much background as he got out of nowhere, like, I mean, a couple more rounds and maybe a position or two, I think he'll be ready for the big show.
I agree.
So my quick save you got up on here is this is a really simple image. There's no writing, no nothing on it. All of these places are districts and locations where your representative voted to protest the electoral college. So look at where you live. Look and see if your representative isn't enough of a gullible idiot to basically believe a completely and totally made up, farcical, complete bag of trash. So
I can't help
it
but
looks good for
notice that
Grand Rapids
Alaska-
there. You're doing okay. What's that?
I said I can't help but notice that Alaska isn't red.
Yeah.
Isn't that aren't they like? Isn't that where Sarah Palin's from?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess the
Where are you
representative
in
they
here,
pulled out
buddy?
there.
Or, Hannah, where are you in this Ohio segment?
It's right. So if you go up straight
Tell me
up
if I'm getting
a
hot or
little
cold.
bit,
Let's do hot or cold.
up, just literally go up straight up from
Hard
where
to
your
hear a
mouse
lot.
is right now. See how those two tile in there in the middle, and then to the right there's a cluster. I'm right in the little Valley Bay areas here, and so I could be connected to any one of these. And so like I had to double check and see if my representatives, but I'm pretty sure I got because I am south of the water far enough that I probably got caught up in that. So I'm probably poorly represented. But this is not unexpected because I live where I live, which is unfortunate as far as my political representation goes. But this is a great map, and this was on obviously found on Reddit as well. But this was a map of all the people who voted, all their representatives who basically were looking to protest the electoral college confirmation and basically legislate fake news. So it's not a fun or interesting one. It's just like this is who you have representing you. So I mean, if you think that's okay, or if you really think maybe in 2 years we need to do something and maybe you can get involved, that's a pretty good example of why. Because that's all House or mostly House. There's only a couple people in the Senate that did something. So House is open every 2 years. So go bust their heads if you need to.
Fair enough.
Word. My quick save. Yay. So this is kind of a neat thing. I don't know it. I don't foresee it being quite as popular as I might make it sound, and that's okay. It's just something neat that my wife got me into because her brother, who works in IT, he recommended it to her when she was trying to figure out what the hell to get for me for my birthday, because I'm not really somebody who sits there and go and writes out a list of all the things that I want people to buy for me, because I've just never been comfortable doing that. So for my birthday, a couple of weeks ago, my wife got me the pre-order for Cyberpunk 2077, and we're going to leave all commentary on everything that's gone on with that game to the side. That's like after show shit.
Why would we do that? Why are you going to tell me I can't?
Because this is my time to talk. Guys. Anyways, so that's what she got me for my birthday, and I got there was this awesome deal where you got the free oh, he even took himself out.
Go on, stop fucking around. Just finish it up so I can critique you, because I can just mute your ass and critique you in a few minutes.
Lovely. So she said, well, how would you feel about this? And basically it's access to the Stadia online video game streaming platform that Google's putting out. And it came with like free controller, all of that, and as well as the game. The controller itself links into your Chromecast, and it also came with the Chromecast, which was awesome because I didn't have one. So now I can just broadcast whatever the hell I want from my phone onto the TV, and it's great. I just completely override whenever my wife is sitting there watching whatever drama or whatever TV show she's watching. And anyways, if I get divorced, that's probably what happened. Anyway, so it's a fun little platform. Video game streaming, I know it's this is very preliminary technology. They're still working out a lot of the kinks with it. It's still very susceptible, especially these days, because with everybody working at home, residential internet is a little tied up and can run a little slower, which can kind of impact the frame rates and other and load times and all of that. But you don't have to worry about going out buying the disc. You don't have to constantly worry about all the updates. That's already done, and then it's uploaded on, and away it goes. Again, it's not like the perfect platform, but it's an interesting alternative. I've enjoyed it. I haven't spent as much time on it just because there was one night I was playing and I have a shitty internet provider, and so I got kind of mad and I was like, the hell with this. I'm just gonna go play a game that doesn't require me to be on the internet. Smoke some pot. But it was so it's just a fun little thing that I thought some people might be interested in looking into for gamers and all of that.
All right.
Cool.
So
why don't we save it after show?
I guess I don't agree with the I don't disagree with this. You do know like Steam exists, right? Like you know
yes.
that, right?
You fully download the game. This is just online streaming, so you're like streaming the game. It doesn't actually get stored and take up your anything other than bandwidth.
I don't know. And I guess I don't disagree with the concept. I'll be honest with you. Like I think overall the concept is a pretty
if it works
cool
good,
concept.
cool.
Yeah. I'm pretty anti Chromecast and Google for video games, but that's just me. And looking through their array of games, like I guess Cyberpunk is probably what their most popular game. Other than how the fuck can you play that on your computer? I didn't know you had that nice a computer, I guess. So
I don't.
Well, it's one of the perks for the streaming.
Yeah.
So most of the CPU work is being done somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well,
and like I said, I've run it right through the Chromecast.
I'm gonna try that now because I can't play Cyberpunk on my PS4, and I've wanted to play the game even though it's gotten so many bad reviews that it's not even funny. And
I can play it right through my phone too. So
in reality, we should probably not be playing it, and we should be disbarring those shitheads from Office. But
we'll get there.
I don't know. There's my hot take. You got my hot take for the night, I guess. That's my hot take. I don't know. I agree. I understand the logic of it, and I'm happy that there's other alternatives out there. Just insane. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not gonna buy an Xbox. I've never bought one when it came out. I own a 360 and one, but you know how often they get played? Poop time.
Never.
You know how often my PS4 gets played? All the time. So, I don't know. I'm not gonna build. I might be able to get a gaming computer next and just move away from all PlayStation and all that. Just say fuck y'all. The problem is that everybody does that, and so a lot of my friends get left behind. And it's I just want to play Ghost of Tsushima. I play on PS4 I don't know every day for the last 2 months. Great samurai game, great online presence. I got 4 or 5 people I play with. I have older kids that don't require me to, sit there and stare at them all the time. They either play with me or sit next to me with their iPads. Or I send them upstairs to clean their room.
Not my world, bro.
Yeah, well, I was there, but I'm no longer there. I'm past that.
Daddy, why are you cutting that guy's head off in that game?
Oh man, I don't give a shit. I'll explain that to my kid all day long.
Nah,
I let my kids watch all that shit. The only thing they can't watch is the GTA fucking the hooker thing. That was kind of nah, I'm not gonna do that. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We've been on for almost 2 hours. We'll be back next week with another Cellar Door Skeptics to tickle your fancy. Have a good night, everyone.
I'll give you something to tickle.
Oh my God, stop it.